the roof's coming down?
Well, we're targeting for very early next week. There'll be something coming from the media our communications group this weekend. So it's weather dependent.
What's kind of the process going to be like? Will it all come down at one time, or will it come down in kind of stages?
Well, I mean, this roof's funny. It doesn't want to ever come down. It's kind of neat, but so the process takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and you just is what I need to do is take the building out of all its automation, so that this building is designed so that the roof doesn't come down, right? So there's processes in place and the systems at Stadium Control that make the roof always stay up. So those need to come out. I need to put the building into a full manual operation mode, and I'll do that. I'm actually going to be the one that's at the controls on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. We originally said the 16th, but we're just right now, again, I need to communicate with Keith and Sarah. We're watching the weather. It's weather dependent.
So there will be kind of exposed air? I mean, is it going to
So,
be a gaping hole?
No, it's a great question. So we'll actually bring the roof down in kind as it is now when that process happens, and then these things are very suspect to wind. They don't like wind. When we put the new roof on, and when you see these buildings, when they were remodeled over time, they'll put big concrete weights inside the building to hold the roof from flopping. So the contractor's telling us it's going to actually remove the material that it should take. Within 8 hours, they'll have all the material off the cables on the ground.
Can you just a bit closer to us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Waterproof's done at this point?
So as you can see around the building as you guys look around, so the seats are out. The third level's been totally waterproofed. We brought a company in to shrink wrap the ribbon boards and shrink wrap the building so that the building's now actually almost like it's separated. So we've separated the arena from the concourses to protect that from weather. All the private suites have been protected. We've put drains. We've installed drains in the front row seats of the third level. You can see those black pipes come down and feed the trench drains that run down the sides of the field. That's done. The plywood that you see inside the building is laid out for the new cables, and the old cables, as they come out and we remove them, they'll land on that plywood as those come down to not damage the concrete. The goal was to get the place as waterproof as we could. We know that the lower bowl is waterproof. We've had issues in the third level when we've tried to pressure wash up there, but after Monster Jam, we pressure washed the whole lower level, and we don't have any issues with water. So,
Can you recap for us how the air-supported roof works right now in terms of what's holding it up there?
So it's air. I mean, there's 16 fans here that move 95,000 cubic feet of air a minute. There's always one fan on that's bringing in 100% outside air. So right now there's a primary fan that's on just to keep the roof up, and the process will be that fan won't come off. I'm going to dictate the amount of air that fan's bringing in and actually bring the pressure down in the building. I can manually do that. So again, it's acting as it always has, but as you can see above you, the lights are completely gone, the scoreboards are gone, the speakers are all gone, the sound's taken out. So in the last 2 weeks, and obviously we're standing on the original basketball court that was put in with the building back in 1980.
When this thing comes down, what do you do with it?
So we've got a bunch of things going on. So we've got a whole process in place working with different people that are going to help us reuse the roof, and we've got a process to give the seniors that are departing a piece of the roof that didn't get a chance to graduate in the dome. We did an event for them a couple weeks ago on a Thursday night. It was really well attended. It was a send-off event for the seniors. That went great. Just Steiner's working with us to take some of the roof. So we have a whole process. We're going to put it in 4 big cargo containers, and then we'll ship it off to the different groups that want it.
Does this just kind of stay here on site until the new structures?
So we're actually going to take, so there's 2 liners. You're going to see some of that roof actually on the ground. We're going to use it for protecting the existing floor. So the stuff that we can use, the inner liner, we will use. We need that slip resistance for the big lifts and the cranes, and they come in along with the plywood underneath the tires. But we're going to use that. But it'll go into big containers, and we'll take it across the street and store it until we ship it.
I'm trying to find out, what do you think would be a good phrase to kind of say what it'll look like when it comes down? Obviously, it's not a pop, it's not a collapse. How would you?
It'll just be inverted, Ricky. It basically looks exactly as it does. Imagine it. Just what you see here is what you're going to see when it's down. The roof doesn't touch. It doesn't get any closer than about 30 feet. I've personally been involved in this roof being down 5 or 6 times over the span of the 40 years, and have done it myself twice or 3 times. I don't remember exactly how many times it's been. And it's always fighting to go back up. So we need to release that, get that pressure out of the building, and it comes down, and it'll just be exactly as you see it, just the opposite way. The only thing we didn't take off was the framework for the flags that were in the center. Everything else, as you look around tonight and through the weekend, we'll hope to get the rest of the lighting off and just leave the frames up there and clear the floor off of anything we need to worry about from weather. We know the floor is going to get wet. We know that the seating bowl will see weather, but you can see that we've pretty much taken everything else out of the building.
And so you were saying before, I think you were mentioning it over there, so we don't have an audio. You're saying you're going to take it out piece by piece once it comes down?
Once it comes down, the contractor, Pfeiffer Fabritech, is responsible for removing the roof and taking it off the frame. So it's right now it's clamped into the framing system, the big cables, the bridge cables, and they're going to go up there and actually they'll cut it with utility knives and take it right off. It'll actually come down when they do that.
And you said it's going to come down early next week, possibly?
We're hoping. We're shooting for the early, first part of the week. Again, I'm going to communicate with Sarah Scalise and her team and Keith, and we're watching the weather. The wind is a problem for me. If it's windy, I'll back out of the date. But I'm hoping that if it's calm enough, we can take it down early in the week.
Pete, what would be the next key dates after the roof comes down?
So the key dates are that crown truss. That's a good question. That's a really good question. And then it's taking the cables out. The existing cables that are out there's 220 tons and 6.5 acres of roof here that's still up without the sound and lights. That's what this roof weighs, this structure that you see above us. So again, every one of these cables that need to be cut, they need to be jacked down. So just imagine, how do you get this giant cable down in this whole cable net? We'll unclamp it at the intersections and we'll take it down piece by piece. And again, there'll be dumpsters in here, and that company will be responsible for that. We have scaffolding we need to put up yet in the 3rd level, and that we'll have another, again, a contractor in doing that. And you can see the big 6x6 or 8x8s, the big 8x8s and the seats. Those are all there to protect the ribbon boards when the cables come down. So they understand the geometry, and I have pictures from when we've had it down to line up exactly where those are. They're to protect the facility.
You mentioned the wind and several other things. What kind of challenges do you face with a project this big?
Well, obviously schedule is the biggest challenge, and weather is the other challenge. Those two together, one doesn't move without the other, right? So it's very, very hard for us. Like today's a great example, right? We were ready to go with some pretty good work today, and then we had the wind, the wind issue, which shut us right down with the big cranes. Those big cranes are great. They don't have to move a lot because they reach a lot of the building, but they're really susceptible to the wind. So again, it's a sustained wind that is our issue. You get those sustained gusts over 30, they can't work, or they need to be knuckled down.
How much does that set you back? Like just a day, or?
Well, so it's like today we're not working, but we'll probably work this weekend. I know that we may not work the full day tomorrow, but we'll work some. The inside work will go on as it's scheduled. That's not an issue. It's the crane work, the heavy work outside that is our concern. And those steel boxes are 50 to 65 feet long, and they're 50, 60, 70 tons. So when you're picking something up 200 feet in the air, the wind is your biggest challenge, and that's what we fight every day is watching the wind.
We're kind of in uncertain times here.
We
So
are.
Schedule is a big factor for you guys. Are
Sure.
you worried that your schedule might get thrown in disarray? Whether it's workforce, whether it's manufacturing, and if there is manufacturing done in other countries, about getting supplies here when you need them to. I mean, how much is this potentially going to be a setback?
So yes on every question, and it's not just the dome project. I've got a $30 million renovation going at the Shine Center that has to be done at a certain time as well, and we just thank goodness we wrapped up the National Veterans Resource Center. But every project on campus right now, we're working with our contractors. This is a big workforce. I mean, you ask a very good question. There's about 150 to 200 people here at the peak of this construction. We've had, Nate, 120 people here a day. We're working 24 hours a day right now. There's 2 shifts, 6 to 6. That's our day here every day. We're trying to hold off on Sunday maybe, but with the day lost today, we're probably going to have to work Sunday. So we're very concerned about it. It's something we talk about every morning. There's a morning, a meeting that goes on every day across the street at the job trailer. There's 2 or 3 meetings a week that I'm involved in with the contractor. There's not a day goes by that I probably don't talk to the contractor. I'm not exaggerating, probably 20 times. There's conversations of some sort. Sometimes it's not a good conversation for the contractor because they may be doing something that impacts student well-being or life around the building, and I'm very pro protecting my university and my building. There's a reason we're remodeling this because the kind of shape it's in, so there's a lot of that, but it's challenging. We're definitely working with our contractors, asking what they're seeing in other areas of the state, what they're seeing in other areas of the country they're working in. These are big contractors. Midwest Steel is national. Pfeiffer Fabritech is all over the world. They've got a dozen employees here from Germany right now. So we're constantly talking to them about that.
How long a delay can you afford before the September 19th date becomes in jeopardy?
Well, you know, I'd be lying if I didn't say every construction project has a little bit of melt in it, but the schedule is a really tight schedule. You know, you're going to start seeing this box truss going up a lot faster, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is the contractor trying to run a building and put that steel up was very challenging and stressful for the contractors. They needed 3 days in a row to put each piece up due to different events that could possibly happen. So here's a great example. So yesterday we have a great day. We put up like 4 spirals and 2 box trusses over the course of the day and a half. The contractor told us as they were putting up this big box piece of steel yesterday, oh, we'll be out of there in our regular time. You know, you'll be able to let the contractors in at 5:30, 6 o'clock. At 8:30 last night, I'm still on the phone with the gentleman. I'm in my other office, in another office on camera. I can see every inch of this place saying, you know, what's going on? Is there an issue bad enough that, you know, we're not going to be able to unhook the crane? What's taking so long? Well, we're to the 16th of an inch of setting each piece. And the cables that hold those pieces in place go back to a jack, and there's a pressure on that, okay? And we know what we can put on that jack, the pressure on that jack, to get that piece where it needs to be. That all needs to be coordinated. I don't know, you know, if you're here every day, people that know the campus and know what's going on, you might see these guys in orange vests and hard hats, but with a tripod in this really cool square box. We have surveyors all around the building, and they're on roofs of other buildings, and they've got dots that they're shooting at, points on each piece box truss. And they're trying, when we release the crane, that piece of steel's got to be within a 16th of an inch of the center of that dot. And that's the kind of, you know, the precision of this piece. So we had a discussion about the piece of steel that was the keystone piece on the north side, that was the last piece that made the ring. And they're thinking, oh my goodness, you know, we're going to know how well, but we did trial mock-ups in Canada where this was built. So they put this together and they trialed. That piece went in easier. You know, the piece they worried the most about went in easier than almost any other piece because they're on. These guys are so tight. It's amazing what a great job they've done.
Still on schedule.
We're on schedule. We you know, yeah, absolutely. We're on schedule. I mean, is every part of the job perfectly to the day that we set, you know, it was going to finish? And there's melt in all those numbers. So we're the date is the date. When you're in this business, the date is the date. The date's September 18th. That's the date the contractors are heading for the Colgate game.
What do you think you're going to be feeling the moment you see this roof come down? You mentioned that you're going to be the actual person who's essentially pressing the button.
It's going to be it'll be a high and a low, right? I mean, I've lived this for forever, right? Forever, since the day the roof went up. I mean, I was involved in this when the building was being built, not at a full-time level, but here in the building. And you know, there's a stress factor, Ricky, that goes into this because you don't walk away from this building. There needs to be somebody here 24 hours a day. So the stress of a losing power, or the stress of, you know, something happening mechanically that causes their issues. So it's going to be it's going to be I don't know. Sometimes when things happen, you're happy and you're sad, right? So it's going to be a lot less stress for me from that perspective. But it's time. The way this whole thing works. This technology it's time.
So it's expected to come down next week?
So we're hoping Keith will put a communication out. So I would be prepared for early in the week, or
Yeah.
just watch the weather. But
One
Keith will
last
put something
thing-
out.
one last
For
thing
sure.
on the list. Scoreboard.
Yeah.
Cold. I don't think it's going to be movable.
Well,
Because I know Sarah was working on getting something for you guys too, because Chris is working on that. Are you okay with me still? I don't want to, because I know she's working on an answer for it. Okay. Are you